Welcome to Healing Your Family Legacy, here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Innovative, evidence-based recovery that helps to identify intergenerational trauma, allowing for freedom and embracement of the healing process. Today, episode 75, The Final Word on Addictions. And now your host, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee.
This is Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, helping you heal your family legacy. Over the last several weeks, you've heard me discuss, talk about, define addictions. And so today, I'm going to kind of wrap that up for everybody. And hopefully, you can see it for what it is, but I won't be focused on addictions for the near future anyway, for the far future too, because here I am. I've talked about it incessantly. But the reason that I've talked about it so much, and I keep going back to it, is that after being a therapist for about 50 years, and I'm not exaggerating, I've noticed, and since 1978, I've been hugely focused on addictions. And it's cross with mental health issues, is that I've noticed that I might be talking to somebody in my office about what I think is their alcohol problem, let's say, or someone who has an eating disorder. And I can see it with my eyes. Somebody walks in and they're 100 pounds overweight. And, they have depression and they have anxiety and, they're lonely and, they've got medical problems. And they're telling me all this. And I say, well, what are you doing about your eating disorder? And they look at me like somebody just smacked them. Like, what eating disorder? It's like the one you have. You obviously have an eating disorder. You overeat. That's an eating disorder. You're not eating because your body needs the nutrition. You're eating for probably emotional reasons. You're lonely. You're sad. You're upset about something. So you found a way to fix that by overeating. And I say, no one's ever said that to me. You're the 10th therapist I saw. And you are the only one that's ever said that to me. And I say, gosh, I'm sorry that that's happened to you. But do you understand what I mean? And it takes a while. Even though I know they see themselves in the mirror. I know that they have to go to the store and buy bigger clothes. I know that they've been going through all of this. And because no one's ever said it to them, they are deluded. That's a real word, people. Delusion. That means that they have made up a new story about it because they're not living, they're in denial about it. So I'm in denial about my eating disorder. And in order for me to live with myself and make sense of the fact that I have to go to the store, buy new clothes, I'm eating all the time. I see myself in the mirror. I'm thinking, wow, you got a little bigger. And yet no one said anything to me because I don't look at myself all day. Then I have a new story about it. I don't know what the story is, but I have a new story about it. And so I, as a therapist, I say, what are you doing about your eating disorder? And it's like, what eating disorder? I don't have an eating disorder. It's called denial and delusion. And it can take several times in my office before they start to understand that, well, yes, it's called breaking through the denial system. It's breaking through the delusions that people have about their addiction. Because your addiction, if you have one, it wants you. It wants you more than anything. I've said before, it kind of reminds me of Gollum in Lord of the Rings, who wants the ring. And look what happens to him over time, because he wants that so much, right? It just takes your spirit away. And in doing so, you get deluded and you get delusional and you go into denial about it. And so it's not just one time. You know, I could say to somebody who just got their 4th DUI, they're sitting in jail, they've been sick all night and all day, and I'm in there and it's happened, okay, in my professional life. I say, well, do you want to do something about your alcoholism? I mean, I can get you into treatment. And they say, I'm not an alcoholic. Okay, you remember what I said? You do things over and over again in spite of harmful consequences. So I say to the guy in jail, are you having harmful consequences because you drink? Well, no. That police officer, he was outside the bar when I came out, and because I had one 10 years ago, they know who I am, and they follow me no matter what. If I've been in a bar, they follow me no matter what, and they pull me over and give me a DUI. It's like, oh, well, do you think you got the DUI because you had too much to drink? I didn't have too much to drink. We're talking about really big denial system, thick walls. So when I talk about it over and over, I'm talking to you. I am talking to you for you to determine whether or not you have an addiction. Why is that important? Well, first of all, addictions impact the whole family. If you have children, you better believe me right now that if you have an addiction, your children are being impacted for life. Okay? They're going to be reading my book, Iron Legacy, Childhood Trauma and Adult Transformation. They're going to be reading my book and trying to get in therapy with me because of your addiction. Because it's traumatizing to children. In what way? Well, first of all, if you've got an addiction, and I don't care what it's to, whether it's to alcohol, drugs, food, religion, work, sex, whatever it is, I just talked about, electronics. If you are in an addiction, children know that they have a hard time attaching to you. They have a hard time feeling an emotional bond with you. They feel it. If you've ever watched a child, that when they feel, if you feel something, they feel it. If you're mad, they start screaming. If you're crying, they're crying. Okay? They are like sponges emotionally. And so they need that attachment to the grown-ups around them in order to grow, in order to mature emotionally. They need that. Okay? And if they don't have it because you're not available or because your addiction is calling to you and that's what you're responding to, they know that they're not important. They know that they are, second-class citizens in their family. And so they're going to be in my office. Well, maybe not my office, because I probably won't have an office by the time they get old enough to have to go to therapy. But the likes of me will never, ever run out of patients, clients. Never. I always say, oh, job security right there. When I see a person who is acting inappropriately around their children, I think, job security for people like me. My son wanted to take over my practice one day. All the time when he was young, he'd say, Mommy, I want to be like you. And he would have been a great therapist. He would have been really good at it. Because he's very sensitive. And he has that same ability that I do to know exactly what's going on with somebody before they tell you, which is why I became a very good therapist. And he has that ability too. And so he would have made a very good therapist. What I told him Because imagine my son taking over my practice. It would have been a dream come true. I really thought it would be great. And it would have been good for the people that I worked with. But, and here's the big but, this is just a side note, to what insurance companies and lawyers have done to the world of therapy, I would never suggest somebody goes into being a therapist. It's a freaking nightmare. And you spend a lot of time not being a therapist. You spend a time dealing with lawyers. You spend a lot of time dealing with insurance companies. It's like people can't afford therapy. I see it now. We're still in this pandemic and, mass shootings and God knows what else is going to come our way. But people are really traumatized and they need therapy. I'm 71 years old. I'll be 72. I've been doing this since I was 21, literally. My first job. Actually, before that, when I was the director of the first crisis line, helpline on the University of Utah campus. Okay? I did that when I was in school. I was 19 years old. I'm 71 now. I've been doing this longer than most of you have been alive, okay? And I know some things. And what I know is that people are so traumatized that now I get emails all day long from mental health, HMOs, you name it, and they want me to come to work for them. No, not now. And, like, why don't you get trained to do, this intervention for first responders? No, I already know how to do it. If you want me to do it, I'll do it. But I don't need specialized training. Why? I wrote a book on it, for crying out loud. Okay? So yeah, if you want me to show up and do what I do probably better than most therapists, I think, I'll show up and do it. But I'm not going to jump through hoops to get there. And that's why I told my son, you don't want to be in this. There are so many hoops to jump through. If you're good at it, they want you to do it, but they want you to pay with your life to do it. And I'm not. I told him, don't do it. Do something else that interests you just as much. And now what he does, he's in a line of work where he absolutely uses that gift that we both have. And he's using it for good. He's not a therapist, thank God. We need good therapists. I get called to please come and help us deal with this trauma. No, thank you. Because in order to do that, I got to jump through stupid hoops that I could probably write you about, or I could make you jump through, and I could probably identify the things that you're not doing. Anyway, that's another story. What I'm talking about is that there is help for everyone, though. Okay? Even if, I see on TV, it's like, if you need help, call this number. There are suicide hotlines. There are all these things available to you. There are things available to you if you're an addict of any kind. There is a 12-step program out there. All you have to do is go online and look for it. It's not hard to do. So let's say you're a shopping addict. Say you can't stop yourself from buying things. You go online and you could shopping addiction. You'll get to Debtors Anonymous. Okay? It'll take you there. So there really is help. Now, what happens, I call this a family legacy. When you are an addict, the probability that your children will also be addicts are higher than for children who grow up in families where their parents aren't addicts. Now, it's hard to find these days because there are so many things that we can get addicted to. It comes when there is so much. Okay? We live in a country where we essentially have so much of everything, we don't even know what the word enough means. Okay. And so when our pleasure centers light up, say cherries, say you eat a cherry and your pleasure center goes, oh, that's great. It's like you've got bags of cherries that you can get. Of course, you're going to run out at some point because, oh, well, that season's over with. But then you can go get them out of the frozen section of the food, of the store. And, if you eat too many cherries, your guts are going to be in a mess, okay? There are harmful consequences for anything that you do obsessively and compulsively, okay? The obsessive compulsive part of this is that when you're an addict, you obsess about when you're going to do that thing or get that thing the next time when you're not doing it. Or sometimes when you are doing it. Oh, say I'm running low on cherries. Where am I going to get my next bag? It's like, oh, I'm running low on alcohol and, it's almost 2:00 in the morning and I don't know if there's anywhere I can get some more beer. Well, I better go get some right now. That's called obsession. I'm thinking about it, where I'm going to get the next hit while I'm doing it. And then I do it compulsively. All right? Obsessive compulsive behavior is what this is. And with harmful consequences that are ignored. Okay? I worked with a person once who got a DUI the first time they drank because they were stupid. Okay, that's all I can say. It's like they went and got drunk and drove and got a DUI. And they never drove drunk again. Okay? It was kind of like they got the memo. Don't do that. That's not good drink. And I told the person, I said, if you keep doing this, you are like on the threshold of developing an addiction if you drink that much on your first time. Let it be a lesson that you don't need to drink that much. You just did it because, well, you're young. But you don't have to do that. Here's what social drinking looks like. A, you are having a beer or a glass of wine or a drink with somebody because it's a social occasion. You don't develop a social occasion every day, like going to the neighborhood tavern. That is not, okay, if you're going there every night after work and staying until closing time and you're calling that a socialization, you're deluded. You've created something that's not really a social occasion. These aren't people that you're going to call if you get busted for drunk driving. They won't come. They're too drunk. And if they do, they'll end up in jail with you. They're not your friends. They're drinking buddies. Friends are people that you call, that you have interaction with, that's not about alcohol. Or not about, whatever it is that you're ranting and raving about while you're drunk. It's about having real conversations with real people about real things like feelings, like what's going on in the world, like problem solving that's real. Okay? Not like, a real problem solving situation is to get an AR and go mow down a bunch of people that you think are taking stuff away from you. That's not real. It's not happening. So if you're having a real conversation with a real person about a real problem, you're sitting there thinking, okay, how can we deal with this climate crisis? Okay? So I hope they're doing that right now in Utah. It's like that's where I was born and raised, mostly raised there. And I noticed on the news that the Great Salt Lake is drying up. What? How can that be? And that, by the way, would create something akin to what they call a nuclear disaster. So I hope that all of those good people of Utah are sitting around trying to figure out a way to solve that problem. And it's not because those people are bad or somebody else is doing it to them. It's like, a lot of people live there. They're using all the water, so water's not running into the lake. From the time I was a child, there was water running into that lake, and it's not going there anymore because all the people are using it to water their lawns. It's a desert. Lawns don't grow there. Make it the desert. That'll probably create, that'd be part of what I would call a reasonable solution, but we'll see what they come up with. I can tell you this, they're not sitting around in a bar solving that. Okay. So addictions, alcohol, drugs, sex, internet pornography, eating disorders, both refusing to eat, anorexia, overeating, and what we call bulexia, which is overeat, then either throw up or exercise. Exercising to get rid of what you just ate is not exercise. Exercise is a way to make your body strong. It's a way to make your body work for you. It's not a way to get rid of the cake. All right? If you're doing it to get rid of the cake, it's an eating disorder. Smoking cigarettes is an addiction. Hey, drinking too much caffeine is an addiction. There, you have anything that lights up your pleasure center that you overdo in spite of harmful consequences is an addiction. Think about it. I'll probably bring it up again because, like I said, most of the time, people who have addictions don't say, oh, that's me. I'm doing that. Now, for those of you who have read my book, Iron Legacy, Childhood Trauma and Adult Transformation, and I think that it's a good book, and everybody that's read it said it's a good book. It's dense. It's not easy to read, but then anything worthwhile where you really learn something isn't going to be easy to read. But in my book, I talk about my own addictions, alcohol, drugs. If you want to know more, you have to read the book. But I remember the first time that I wondered if I had a drinking problem. And I was at a Women for Sobriety conference. Now, I was at the conference because I was in a profession that was starting to deal with, what are we going to do with alcoholics? Okay. So me and my friend went to this conference, and this woman said something that kind of hit home for me. And I went outside and sat on the curb, which was appropriate at the time when I look back on it. We could call them gutter drunks, right? So I'm sitting on the curb thinking, that sounds a little bit like things that I've done. Maybe I should stop. Nah, never mind. And I went back in and finished the conference. And it took me several years of getting worse and worse and worse and making a bigger mess of my life and other people's lives. It wasn't just mine. Before I realized that I had an alcohol problem. And it wasn't pretty. It wasn't a fun day, okay? But I haven't had a drink since. And it's been 44 years, and I'm real happy about that. I'm real grateful about it. And why I said that I'd been in the field of mental health and a therapist for 50 years, yes. That's not something I'm proud of, to say that I was actually working in the field while I had the addiction. Now, I wasn't drinking while I was at work, but I can tell you this, if you're an alcoholic, it affects your work, no matter what kind of work you do. You know, I went to a dentist once, and when he leaned down to, he's, okay, now let's do this, I could smell alcohol. I got up and walked out. It's like, yeah, no way. No dentist who is like either drinking today or still drunk from last night is going to do anything to my teeth. Okay? Just because you are a professional person doesn't rule you out that you're not going to have an addiction. Because you're a mother who's taking care of her children every day, maybe even homeschooling them. If you're drinking, using drugs, spending all of your time teaching your children everything, there's something not right about that. First of all, your children need to go out and mix it up with other kids in order to develop social skills and to understand there are other people in the world. But you also need to be doing self-care. That means that you need to be out in the world too. Maybe you could go have lunch with friends or invite friends over. Or just take them out to the playgrounds, public playgrounds, and interact with the other parents there. It's called, we have a world that we are in crisis about. And part of that, I think, is that we're a bunch of addicts. What we want, what we like, we want more of. And so what we'll do is we'll go do whatever's required in order to make that happen. Okay? We love our cars, so we're willing to sacrifice the planet in order to keep those cars going around for us. For instance, we like to have fires in our fireplaces, so we're going to sacrifice our environment. We like to, we like to go out and have drinks with our friends, so we're sacrificing our safety and other people's so we can do that. It's like, we have to understand that in order for us to be responsible adults, we have to look at what is enough. We have to work more towards the middle. It's like, we don't have to have everything. We can have some things. We don't have to have all of the cars driving all over the place. We can have some. And, I have a car, but I really think about it before I drive it somewhere. I think, okay, what's going to happen here? Do I really need to do this? I can walk. I walk everywhere. But guess what? It's like, people probably recognize those of us who walk. When you're driving down the street and think, I saw that person in that same area yesterday. They're walking. If you are engaging in a behavior over and over again, in spite of harmful consequences, that you ignore or make excuses up about, you're an addict. I'd like to encourage you to just go on to a 12-step meeting and listen to what they have to say. And if it resonates with you, stick around. That's all you need to do. You don't need to go to therapy for that. You just need to go listen to what they say. And if it resonates with you, you might consider stopping. And whatever else comes up, there's therapy for that. Because remember, I also said, underneath every addiction is a childhood trauma. It's just fact. That is a fact. You can't deal with that childhood trauma until you stop the addiction. You can't do that. It doesn't work that way. You have to stop that first. It won't work. That's a fact too. And there's help. So please, take a look. See what you see. And nobody even needs to know. You can go online now to a meeting. That wasn't true for me when I stopped. But, now you can go online. But it's called anonymous for a reason. If you're in that room with people, then, it's like the only thing they care about is that you come back. Keeps them sane and sober too. Okay. Well, I hope you take a look at yourself. I hope that you realize this will make you feel better, longer, impact the legacy that you leave. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Healing Your Family Legacy here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. Healing Your Family Legacy is copyright 2022, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The SoulWorks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. SoulWorks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the SoulWorks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.